So you're a lost Bernie burner, kind of checked out the Green Party convention, and you're also a political science professor.
Political scientist.
Political scientist. So I kind of find it unique because the Green Party now is just raking in Bernie supporters. More passionate, more frustrated people will say, I'm done with this whole, I'll take the lesser of two evils. More, I don't know what you would call it, practical, pragmatic, life's not fair, just deal. People will say, vote, vote for the person who is less of a catastrophe. But in a political science way, this lesser of two evils system that Jill Stein's railing against, that Cornel West is railing against, do you think there's, probably not for this election, but do you think there's finally some cracks in that way of looking at things?
I wish it were the case, but I think it's just too entrenched right now. I think the way that the system is set up, it clearly favors two parties. It clearly ends up with a lesser of two evils in almost every case, right? We think that we're picking between the best candidates from each party, but it usually doesn't work out that way. From the decisions about who, the number of people that have to support them in the polls in order to participate in the debates, to the way that funding is structured and the way that media covers it, I think we're kind of stuck with the two-party system, at least for now. Maybe as TV dies out and the internet or other new technologies that haven't come out yet make it possible to spread messages in ways that can't be so easily monopolized or corporatized, then maybe at that point we could.
Well, the devil's advocate is, I mean, these two candidates have the highest unfavorables like in history in both parties. I don't particularly, I'll be honest, I don't think the Green Party is going to win. I don't think the Libertarian candidate will win. But if there's ever kind of a year where they could kind of make things more interesting instead of being, a footnote, but more importantly, kind of start to change that way of thinking, Democrats, Republicans, because it seems like on the Democratic side and the Republican side, you had a huge revolt. Like people would have voted for Bernie if he was an Algonquin next to his name or an Eric, whatever. So I feel like there is kind of starting to see more of that realistic cry for maybe a progressive party or, I don't know, Tea Party or something like that. You don't think because of, Trump and Clinton being uniquely deplorable candidates that might pave in more movement for that?
As a third party, a legitimate or competitive third party, I don't think so. If the Democrat Party, for example, actually cared about capturing the progressive younger voters, which there's a lot of us, and the older demographic is dying out. If the Democratic Party worked a little bit more actively towards capturing those voters, I think that they would probably be something like a very different party. Right? Historically, we had the Democrat and the Republican, but they've reversed platforms in various ways. The Republicans used to be the progressive party, and eventually switched, right? And now they've become the conservative party. I think that you could have something where a third party might appear a progressive party. The Green Party says that that's what it is, and it would be nice if it was named the Progressive Party or something else, so that people understood that. But I think the way that it's set up right now is it's designed to disenfranchise people. So when I'm teaching American politics, for example, I'm supposed to tell my students that we live in a democratic republic, and that from the very beginning it's set up to be a little bit democratic, but the founders really didn't like democracy. They hated it, actually. They were scared of it. And so we're supposed to be this democratic republic, but it's never really been the case. And I think especially now, neither of the parties really represent us. Right? They represent the wealthy people. And so I think the strategy of both of the parties has been disenfranchisement. It's about preventing people like me, younger people who come from not poverty, but close to poverty, and people who might be otherwise interested in joining a progressive party or making the DNC more progressive. It's about disabling them. You saw it in the DNC, right, over and over. You were there yourself. You saw that it's about freezing out and trying to manage and get those younger people to shut up. And it's not just younger people, but to get the progressives to shut up, fall in line, grow up. They always say grow up, but they mean shut up. And kind of encourage them to fall into line, but also to just not vote, I think. So it's a dangerous politics, especially right now. But
From a political point of view, Bernie's movement obviously had a captivating candidate, but I mean, he won 22 states. Frankly, he probably won more. If you count in, Iowa, they call the election while they're still counting. Same thing in Kentucky. Obviously, Arizona, New York, we could go on. What's on the political science level, what does a Bernie have to do? Or maybe it's Elizabeth Warren if she gets her credibility back. Maybe it's a Zephyr Teachout if she gets elected the next time. What does a progressive have to do, not just to kind of start a movement, but like to beat establishment Democrats, state level and possibly in the presidential level?
well, I think you're seeing them do some of that already. I think the right has been particularly good at kind of resonating with poor, working class, blue collar, white people, and getting them to vote against their own interests. I think you need a counter resonance machine, and I'm stealing that from a famous political theorist, Bill Connolly. But I think that's what they're starting to build, that Bernie Sanders is tapping into that same kind of demographic, the disenfranchised group of people that don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of power in their situation, and is about getting them to change the conversation. So the right's really good at that, right? We have death panels, and they're constantly railing against political correctness, but the right is masterful at creating politically correct expressions for how you describe things. Right?
Democrats started the Bernie Bros and all this bullshit too, so they're kind of, they're not innocent.
Yeah, and I think if you look historically, and I'm not an American political scientist, but I think you could still see it, the established Democrat Party has become, in a lot of ways, what the Republicans were not that long ago. You saw it at the DNC, lots of kind of warmongering, lots of nationalism going on. They're actively courting the people that don't like Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton's working really hard to capture the neoconservative people. She's a little more neoliberal, but capturing them rather than the kind of younger, progressive, I keep saying younger, it's not entirely true, but the more progressive people that you would see here, for example, or people that are at home that would want to be participating if they weren't kind of disenfranchised by the need to go to work or the need to even know what the candidates are and know what their message is, because CNN's not telling them, and MSNBC, they're not telling them about these possible alternatives, right? Most of the time what you see is, you've seen it the whole past week, is just nothing but Trump said this, isn't that horrible, we'll find somebody else to say the other thing, and then we'll report on what people are saying rather than whether or not what they're saying is accurate or
Being generous with report, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're just kind of reproducing the sound machine that the right has been really good at building. I mean, they have their own news channel that's really good at whipping up older white people that are more likely to vote and have the time and energy and money to get out and actually vote. So I think you could see, like, Zephyr Teachout did an amazing job of kind of building this kind of counter resonance where she wouldn't back down from people kind of trying to throw the talking points at her. Mm-hmm. And she even primaried de Blasio, right, earlier.
Cuomo,
sorry, yeah. So I think kind of building some kind of counter resonance, and I think it's already happening. And younger people are obviously receptive to it. Like, I can't speak for all of my generation, but there's not that many political theorists like me that are millennials also, and I can see from the people that I do know and among my students, the things that if I had said 5 years ago would have been radical, to them are completely reasonable and in fact are something that we should be doing right away.
And lastly, teaching political science, how dark is your soul and how cynical are you? Because it sounds like you got to teach a lot of history, but you would be keenly aware of how everybody's kind of full of shit.
Well, I was lucky enough that I did my graduate work at the University of Hawaii in Manoa, okay. So very far away from kind of mainland politics. So you get a black soul for sure. But it's really good, kind of the younger generation is not as disaffected as the older people are. Like, they're already kind of burned out. They've accepted that incrementalism, or however it is, that's the way that you have to move forward. With the younger generation, my students have been, I mean, if I have any black part of my soul, they're constantly trying to rub it out. Right? They have all the energy, they have all the ideas. They're the ones that are not burned out or tired or given up on things like justice or reform. They're the ones that are kind of really actively going for it. And they're also very willing to accept the history of the United States. I teach kind of what would be considered radical texts here, like New Jim Crow or books like that are all about mass incarceration, and they're totally ready to get rid of this system, and they can see why it's bad, and they're frankly very angry at the older generation that instituted it. Right? They created this world that we have to live in, and then they're surprised when we don't want to eat the shit sandwich they've handed us, right?
I'm pretty hungry, so I'm not going to eat that shit sandwich, but I appreciate you talking to us. Thanks, man.